I have a reading from one of a book I found here, the Kevin Smith Chronicles of the Cosmic Space Case. The Space Case books.
Space Case series.
It relates to the news items. I'll read this story first. I was strolling. This story is called Singing New You to the Cave Dwellers. I was strolling into what seemed to be quite an expansive cave. I was with a group of people. The only one I could identify from this group was my deceased grandma. She features quite regularly in my dreams, so she may be a real guide. Our little group came across lots of other people. They were just drifting around and going about their business, seeming a bit forlorn. So my group and I began singing New You's song. We did so with great enthusiasm, laughing and dancing. As you can imagine, we drew the cave dwellers' attention, and ultimately we had everyone in the cave dancing and singing the New You with us. It's interesting how other life levels you perceive more as impressions and recognition as opposed to the mechanics we rely on with the body vehicle to view the physical. There is what I can see, and then the experience fills out with more information through the impressions that I get. I imagine someday, as my awareness continues to expand, a dream I may have in the future that may look entirely different were I to have the same dream at this moment. Dwayne's view is included, and he said, the cave is basically the physical realm. It's like a cave here. That is why it's dark. This is why you look at the so-called sky here and the outer space is all black. It's just a big cave. The psychic realms are really like the water itself. You're under the water or you're on top of it. But if you were on a boat, you'd be on top of it. You're on top of things, you might say. And you come across others, and the basic idea is that while you're here, you're sharing. That's what you're doing. And all of a sudden, everyone's contented. And that's a cool little book there. He's also got a real big couple of other volumes, much larger, Chronicles of the Cosmic Space Case by Kevin Smith. A must-read for everybody out there. You must read. What I was commenting about or sharing was that there were two news flashes, so to speak. What they're doing with our phones, you know, is to interrupt all our personal and mental focus on their live media feed. And it's invaded every single aspect of our use of the internet and the computer medium. So it's such a huge marketing ploy, dynamic. It's incomprehensible. It's kind of like trying to see how many stars are out in the universe. It's so largely, so large. So anyway, I read one thing about this. They're worried, or they're pointing out that there's this huge God meteor or something like that. I just lost the feed on my image here of it. I thought it was on there for a bit, and now it's been interrupted by a bunch of other news media. Here it is, though. Apophis, the god of destruction asteroid, coming close to Earth, and NASA is planning to send a special mission. So NASA's going to go up and talk to God. See? And that's kind of funny. It relates to my story, book, or ongoing project of the Star Rock concert, and the Star Rock representing the Earth and or our all-encompassing planetary body, but I don't just mean just the Earth in that sense at all. So yeah, it's much more relating to the whole of whatever this entity is, if we want to call it an entity, or what have you. In my book, the story, the star rock is going to crash, and it's going to take out all the star rock, that is the rock people, and the rest of life here in an extinction event, or at least that's what the story is about, whether it's going to actually do this, and or are the people going to be able to stop it with their consciousness and the high good vibrations of sound and light and music, etc., as the metaphor of the story goes. So maybe the star rock's coming, and the physical God's going to send it, but of course this thing isn't actually going to hit Earth. They know full well whether it will or not, because they can map out every single star and galaxy and planetary bodies across the universe and tell you exactly where they are in relation to us and to the galactic center or the center of wherever they're orbiting around, etc. So everybody can be mapped like that. That's not the subject for today, but I wanted to talk about what happened. We'll share with Val and our friend, who goes by many names. Oscar, maybe we'll say. Here's his public name. He's a pianist, musician. He calls himself an expansionist, a classical expansionist. So he doesn't just play the old model exactly of classical piano and the pieces that have been created in the last 300 years for piano, symphonic and so forth. So it's really cool. He's building a natural pool. So and some other parts to his place that I think is going to be available for others to stay in, or whatever. He's creating a hotel or something, a hostel, creating a hostel. But we were sharing a bit with him, and we'd like to do some more, I think, with interviewing him about his knowledge of the plants and his a naturalist. So he's kind of put his focus on that currently, improving his own area, which is always good because that means that you're also trying to improve the area of everywhere, and also he's demonstrating it, or without necessarily wanting to be a demonstrator. He's not trying to do any kind of super formal thing, and actually probably avoid that type of arrangement too. However, we're making connections. So we hiked, we also have been clearing our trail. And is there anything you can think of, Val, about our visit yesterday that related to the larger picture?
Well, like you said, he knows a lot about the area and its peoples. So it's good to have people that know, both, because we'll be dealing with both the environment and the people involved in the environment, because they have a lot to do with it, respective to ownership and interests involved. He was mentioning that it's been a slow year for the restaurant, 7.5 miles where we hiked into the Veneto because the winter. The roads are really hard here during the winter to get up to that restaurant. It's really muddy. And the warm season is You mentioned from June, July, August, September, maybe only 3 months. So it's been hard for them the last few years to make any ends meet because they're way out in nowhere.
If I could interject
Yeah,
about, he talked about the solar flare,
the solar
maximum.
Yeah.
And that this is bringing a much greater water and flooding and cooler weather, and the sun is not appearing, which could also relate to some other factors, but we'll say that this environmental picture is that it's cold and dark, so to speak, and so and it's not good for tourism, and also that there are other reasons why the migrations, let's say, or we use the word tourism, are limited. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the related politic situation. But the solar flare, I wrote a song called Telstar Solar Flare in the last month and recorded it, and it's a relation to something that, picking up about the solar activity, and this is going to last another 3 years here, or one more year. It will peak next year, the solar maximum, and then gradually in the next couple of years after that, it will start to turn toward drought situation and a lot of sun, I suppose, and quite a different environmental situation, which is also somewhat difficult for locals to deal with, drought, of course, etc. So, okay, that was it. A really good inference referential to situations that we're dealing with also, where there's a lack of ability to communicate due to these various factors. I noticed that the independent candidate for president, Kennedy, is now dropping out and going to go with Trump. Wow. So he's, they're going to keep the good old boys thing going. And now they're really going to have a male versus female, we versus they, North versus South, black versus white, Civil War situation. But instead of the things that he was suggesting about caring for a political process that's not convoluted by corporate funding and bias and selfishness and or attack and defense politics, calling the other guy the bad guy and all that stuff. So, okay, that's the second piece of news. And the third one was about a dog that was rescued in California, up in the hills somewhere, mountains. It's probably Southern California. And so they had a whole bunch of people carrying the dog down 3 miles down the hill. And it's just news, There was also another piece of news about a star, Polaris, which is our North Star, and they said they finally have been able to get pictures of the surface of the star. Okay, so they put out these news blurbs, like these are interesting, important things that we need to know. Of course, we don't need to know nothing. However, that's, those are 3 things I noticed as we wanted to relate, because Val and I and Scott, let's say, and maybe a couple of others that we've been with, have become part of the Sunset Trail here, Sunrise Trail. Well, I have a the music thing I call them sonnets. Sometimes I'll write a 14-line poem and I call them sonnets instead of sonnets, or sunset. Anyway, so Sunrise Trail here in Baja, and it's going to be like an N-shaped arc. It could be that goes from here up to where we went hiking 7 miles, and then around, or maybe along the ridge top line, or maybe the valley in between, and back to a place called Les Missions, which means the mission. And but the real mission is, like you could say, when all these guys saved the shepherd, German shepherd, by the way. It was a German shepherd, coincidentally, somewhat, because of the low people, you know, sharing place here. It's all these things are always coincidental. So the shepherd has been saved, and you know, they all think they're great heroes because they, you know, it would be something I would say like Val would do without even thinking about it. He doesn't want to get, he doesn't care whether it's reported, and he's just some kind, you know, right? Heroic action. It's just what you do naturally. So I think that representation is the highway. Being on the high road. I had something to read. I don't know if it's taking too much time. I don't need to read today.
No, go ahead. I'm going to add one more thing to Oscar, or Ellie, as he likes to be called Ellie, but he's the classical pianist. About 10 years ago, he went to Rosarito, which is a town half an hour north of us, to the city council to suggest planting trees in town. And that's what we were doing actually in Huntington Beach and Orange County. We're going to city council meetings and proposing tree planting and highway strips and unused areas along roads and parking strips with fruit trees and things like that, you know, just to enhance the tree population and provide what trees do for people on the planet. So Ellie went to the council there about 10 years ago. He had a plan about planting various species of trees. Very good plan. He had a very, very specific and planned project, but they didn't go for it. So 10 years down the line here, they could have had a nice, Rosarito could have had a nice tree-lined
Garden of Eden.
Yeah, downtown there. As it is now, it's just street lights and stop signs and stores. And I don't think the trees that we do see are in poor shape. Nobody's really taking care of them. And so at least, you know, one person is on board with the environment here that we'll be working with. And we can promote these people that are probably apparently struggling, you know, part of the year for income. The restaurant up there is not the only one. There's others too along the way that the trail will provide more traffic and more attention on the environment, the planet, and becoming more aware.
I'm here with The Real Far Country by DUANE the Great Writer. Paragraph: I want to share the wonderful attributes of the All Is with you. First is purity. This is the foremost ideal of all that is real. The true meaning of the Utun is purity. I know that the two of you like this part because of your sincerity to what is real, with real total awareness. The real you is the same as the is. Next is sincerity. The seas of endless light that lie hidden from the human mind are filled with such a wondrous sincerity that your heart and being can hardly contain it. Once you have entered the real universes, you are so overly captivated by such an overwhelming aliveness of sincerity that you never want to leave. For you to succeed into reality, you must decide to fall in love with what contributes to being the is. Third is humility. This is a must to live by because it is everything. Mankind lacks real humility, so he is left in darkness that appears to be light. Next is gratitude. All of life has become aware because of the is, so it is best to realize how to be grateful with its trueness. Fifth is here and now. Learn to live now and let all else be as it will. Your work, family, job, and all that makes up your life on all levels and will always be there, so let it be, and you can go to it any time. The same with your mental, emotional conceptions of your life. Let them be. They will always get attended to. Learn to perceive that is in each precious nowness. Of course, there are more attributes than this, but if you can hold yourself to these to where they become you, then you will have the life you always wanted and be free. Thank you very much, Mr. DUANE, great writer from the Real Country, one of the real new books.
I'm kind of curious, Peter, about your turns on the about Robert Kennedy and Trump. It's strange that you overmissed the part about Biden getting us into 2 wars, flooding the country, sending our jobs overseas. I don't know what else you could say that these Comocrats have done for the United States.
All I know is that I've been told here recently, or we've been talking about clones, and actually with Oscar we discussed this. He knows a woman who lives in the depths of Mexico, and she was in 1970s. She was with a group called the RealIans, RaeLians. The RealIans, who had some discovery that the aliens had been here and they had provided them cloning technology. And this group was involved with its psychometaphysical whatever, and their actuality of demonstrating this cloning and techniques or doing it, which is highly illegal, I think, all along the whole entire time that cloning has been available. I think that they've immediately tried to.
That's what Epstein's been doing for business. He's was in the cloning.
Okay, so the comment related to JoJo is that he has been cloned numerous times now. And so we don't know which one of those people who are out of the picture anyway now. Anyway, you're not going to hear anything more from him. I do have a joke though to tell if I can move it quickly. I went to New York, and there were 2 headlines in the paper. This was last October. I had 2 different headlines, and I took pictures of them because it's humorous. The first one was New York in anarchy. Biden was visiting, and they were talking about the fact that he had allowed in 500,000 Mexican Americans, I call them Mexican Americans, because I think America, the real America, this is my own personal, is Canada, Mexico, and the United States, and it's all one. There isn't any borders or boundaries from that point of view, and that there is an existing America that includes the Caribbean, you know, or whatever, if I have to have any borders to it. And so these headlines were about, because Biden's trip to when I was in New York was coincidentally the United Nations meeting to discuss the world civilization and situation. And 2 weeks that they have, I think, every year, end of September, early October. And I was perfectly on time. I arrived there almost the first day of the event. And there was a big demonstration, etc., that I was invited to, and like that, I didn't go. But that was all part of this. And then I looked up in this, in the papers. So they had that coincidentally with the immigration and the news that everything's in anarchy because they let in 10,000 immigrants in one day or something like that. All they did was walk across one piece of land to another, to be true. They didn't let in anyone, unless we want to take it really literally, which is not the point at all. Okay, so talking a lot here, but I want to find the other headline because it's very funny, and that'll be the end of this. Oh, by the way, when I was in New York, I'm just showing Val, I have a picture of this statue of Columbus, the Columbus Circle, which is of some kind of statues with young boys and women, like Athena or somebody, you know, Greek-looking figures, and Columbus is of course, the one who supposedly discovered America, and all of that kind of fantasy. You know, so now we're free thanks to the discovery of America by so-and-so, while America has always been here. And, you know, there isn't any real discovery at all, except for that they're discovering some more territory to invade, and or to say that they've taken over so that they can tell you whether you can come or go. So I went to New York and stood next to a statue of Abraham Lincoln and made a video of me talking with Abe, and I'll put that one on here, so you can laugh at that a little bit. You know, I just made these short videos, 1 minute and stuff. So here's the headline: Border Crisis, have a New York minute, because they wouldn't let Biden have a minute to speak. As far as I remember, that's what happened at the UN meeting. And then it says, Joe blows off Adams, which is my last name. Migrants in Apple visit. So Joe blows off, that's Joe Biden, Adams, and the migrants in the Apple visit. So they ignored me completely. They didn't invite me to it either. You know, I'm, you know, super miffed, Ronald, and they didn't include me in the meeting, and I was the real peace operative, the real thing, right? Just like Val on the trails, that's the real thing. We're on the high road. No more self-promotion if that sounds like that. I'm just having fun. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ronald. you.